paradigm process at our center, which is something we've learned over the last 11, 12 years, that helps people get out of the first half of life and stuckness and survival and into the second half where we can actually thrive, where we can self-regulate and we can actually pull what we intend towards us. I suppose a lot of people call this the law of attraction, but we call it your future potential. It's out there waiting for you in the contemplative field. I mean, everything is possible in this life unless you're using your mind to answer that question. Is everything possible? Because the mind is incredibly, incredibly limited by nature. Of course, it's built for survival. What else would it think? If we didn't have boundaries, we wouldn't live very long, would we? So this is what the mind does. So the paradigm process is to try and take one person from one paradigm that they've created since childhood and move them into another one, a new, unknown, present reality needs to be born for someone, especially who's stuck, who's not living their life to their full potential, who's stuck with depression, anxiety, stress, whatever. You're going to have to move from one side of life to the other. And what has to change? Absolutely everything. So we use 10 pathways back to what we call sacred self, which is your authentic self. To thine own self be true, and the truth again will set you free. So we're looking for truth. We're looking for reality here, and we're looking for the reality that's inside, not a reality to be found out there. That means very, very little. Someone who's been stuck in survival mind for 10, 20, 30 years is not going to see reality. He's not going to see the wood for the trees. He's not going to be able to see a beautiful, pleasant, safe world. He's going to be able to see one that is stressful, that is dangerous, and one in which he needs to or she needs to protect themselves constantly. So that's how a lot of people live today, right? It's monkey mind, lizard brain. But there's a life beyond thinking, a better one at that. So the first step in this paradigm process that we teach is letting go of our need to control. We have an incredible innate need to control all the way through life. When we have felt out of control, the mind creates these egoic defenses, and one of them is a false reality that we're in control, and we'll do anything first to create a sense of control, become a perfectionist, become codependent, become neurotic, and then secondly, even worse, we'll do anything we can to defend these positions, our own perfectionism, neuroticism, our own ego. And when we're defending, we're at war. Defense is the first act of war. So lowering your defenses and letting go of your innate need to control is the very first step. And how we do that is we start to recover a sense of self-love. Start to recover a sense of who we really are, which 9 times out of 10 is a really good person, a person who wants to achieve, actualize, and grow, a person who wants to be kind and help other people and help themselves and connect in healthy ways. So recovering a sense of self on one hand, while at the same time letting go of a need to control, is the first step of the paradigm process. And there are 10 steps that we go through. The second pathway back to sacred self is letting go of your perfectionism. And we all have suffered feelings of abandonment. We've all suffered feelings that we're not good enough. And to compensate these things, perfectionism, which we call your perfectionist insurgent, comes up into your head to defend you against ever being abandoned and neglected again. And in so doing, you probably needed this when you were 8, 9, 10 years old. But if you're 30 years old and your life's not working for you and you've become a perfectionist, in turn, that has become a procrastinator, in turn, who's become a person who is stuck and cannot sort of move beyond this mask of perfectionism, then you're going to be suffering. And what you need to do is let go at some point, become aware, and then let go of this perfectionism and take new action. And we believe the new action that you take while letting go of perfectionism through meditation, contemplative practice, and so on, through concerted effort and faith and belief and hope, that you can let this thing go, this monster sometimes of a mask, is that you start creating a sense of gratitude. Gratitude is a very, very powerful energy center in our brain. It's very prefrontal. It helps us create, coordinate. It helps us motivate and move forward in life. So gratitude energizes while perfectionism de-energizes. And do that over the space of a decade. And you could be in big trouble emotionally, neurologically, psychologically speaking. Thirdly, we let go of our neurotic nature, that fearful nature that is always second guessing everything. And we try and recover a sense of surrender. Surrender, letting go, going with the flow, and trusting the process of life. You know, we surrender and we become more relaxed almost immediately, and do that over time. And that'll affect your body, heart, and brain. It'll affect your brain waves. It'll affect the way your heart beats, and it'll affect the two, as the Heart Math Institute teaches us, so that they can work together and work coherently. So, you know, when we're out of sync, it's like our brain waves and our heartbeats and our variabilities are all like a bunch of drummers beating their drums out of time, and we expect no consequence, which is ridiculous. When we align through self-regulation, surrender, and healthy connection, when we align our body, hearts, and brains together, we start to develop a real sense of what our sacred self, our authentic or higher selves actually looks like. In pathway 4 of the paradigm process, we start letting go of our codependence. Now, everybody's a codependent. And we became codependent when we were 2 years old, when we had to rely on the moods and the kindness of our families. And we, of course, became codependent on pleasing them and making sure that we were taken care of. But the codependence that once served us, of course, at some point needs to go. We need to recover a sense of connection, not only to body, heart, and brain, but to other people, places, things that are out there in our environment. So in other words, we connect more positively and we respond more positively to our environment. Now, even if that's a harsh work environment, for example, we can't change that work environment as much as we can change the way we respond to it. And that's work we need to do inside, which we call spiritual work, of course. Spiritual work is doing anything from the inside without the hindrance of personality. Then in pathway 6, we let go of our victim mentality. Each and every one of us take a victim position now and again. But the problem is when we hang on to that for too long, we live the life of a victim. And victims, quite honestly, are violent people at the end of the day. And we overcome being the victim by recovering a sense of resilience, a sense of self that can stand up to what needs to be stood up to without buckling under imaginary or perceived pressure. In pathway 7, we let go of the actor, which is the masks that we wear, the jovial spirit that we might try and portray, and recover rather a sense of presence, becoming authentically who we are in that present moment. Pathway 8 lets us let go of the pleaser insurgent. At some points in our lives, we've always played the game and become a pleaser. And we let go of that and develop a sense of self-regulation. In other words, we can regulate our emotions enough not to fall back onto the default of becoming a people pleaser. We regulate our emotions enough, hold fast with courage, and move forwards in authenticity. And when we do so, there's no need for suffering. There's no need for second guessing ourselves and no need for shame or guilt. In pathway 9, we let go of the judge. The judge insurgent is one of our strongest insurgents, and we all have it. We're consistently judging the field. We're consistently judging other people so that we can remain safe. But really, we need to let go of the judge and develop a sense of wisdom, of discernment that doesn't ever leave us, where we don't need to be over-judgmental. We simply need to use wise mind to discern how we truly need to think, feel, and act in any given situation. And last but not least, in the 10th pathway, we let go of the anxious insurgent. The anxious insurgent, of course, is always our go-to when the body, mind, heart senses fear. So anxiety, I really think, is often there for us rather than something that's happening to us. It really does help propel us forward. It helps us know that there's internal work to do, and it helps us know that self-regulation needs to be something that we need to pursue. And how we do that is with courage. We develop a sense of courage. Courage meaning working from the heart. And love is the most potent emotion on the planet. In fact, love is not only an emotion, it is a verb. It is not a noun. It is something that we do, and it is actually something that does us too. And we become love. God is love. We become like God. We become loving. What else are we doing in the world besides trying to find a sense of self-regulation and self-actualization? So the pathways back to sacred self take us on a journey where we need to diminish the masks and the personality that's become, of course, our personal reality. And we need to move past that pseudo reality into a more authentic one, because everything is becoming more and more real. So like the story of the Velveteen Rabbit teaches us, real is not something that happens to us. It's a process that we go through. And the process of finding your sacred self is a process of finding reality and then not having to change a thing about it. Being able to accept reality just as it is. Because reality at the end of the day, without the fear, is love. It is good, and so are we. Well, the paradigm process runs us through 10 pathways back to sacred self, which is our authentic self. And it's a self that has not been damaged, bruised, or marred, or put into what we call a personality prison. A prison of perfectionism, codependence, people-pleasing. And sooner or later, we need to become our authentic selves. We need to let go of the masks. Otherwise, there'd be no point in living a life as someone who we not really are. So the journey back to finding your sacred self, it's an all-encompassing journey that helps us move past our attitudes, moods, the traits we've developed over years, the personality that we have created, and it helps us move back to an authentic self that is not rooted in survival, in certainty, and in defense. Because defense, of course, is the first act of war. And you'll know when you're at war with yourself, when you're anxious, when you cannot be still, and you cannot know that life is good, then you're at war. And of course, we need to know that that war needs to be processed, put on paper, and overcome, because after war comes peace. And that's what we're all searching for. So we deflate one side of life, a negative side, and it resides in a certain part of our brain, usually what we call the downstairs of our brains, of the hindbrain. And we move, of course, to the front of our brain, the prefrontal cortex, which is 40% of our brain, largely unused when we're stuck in extended states of survival mind. So the return to your sacred self is a journey not only that we all should take, but it's a necessary journey in the second half of life that helps us get right into what contemplation refers to as the state or ability to be able to look at reality, at life and situations without our biases of attitude, personality, and mood, and move into seeing reality exactly as it is. So the truth in the end really does set us free. Of course, the truth being a synonym for reality. So the journey back to reality is a paradigm shift from our lower selves to our higher selves. And it is one that is probably the most important journey we will ever go on.